I always thought I was lucky. A stable home, a family that raised me, a life that seemed normal from the outside. But growing up, there was always a strange silence in my house. No baby pictures, no stories about my birth, no relatives who ever talked about before. Whenever I asked questions, the answers were always the same. Don't think about it. You have a good life. That's enough. But deep inside, I always felt something was missing, like a part of me didn't belong here. I just didn't know that the truth was already waiting for me, and it would destroy everything I believed about my life. When I was a child, I didn't understand much, but I remember moments that didn't feel normal. At school, other kids had family photos and albums. I had nothing. At home, birthdays were quiet, almost forced. Whenever I asked about my real birth story, my mother would suddenly become uncomfortable. And my father, he would get angry. You are asking unnecessary questions. So I stopped asking. But silence doesn't erase curiosity. It only builds it. And as I grew older, that curiosity turned into suspicion. There were small things I noticed. Arguments at night that stopped when I entered the room. Phone calls that ended too quickly. Documents hidden in locked drawers. Once I overheard my mother say, "Just make sure she never finds out." That sentence stayed in my mind for years. I find out. What exactly? But I was too young to understand. So I convinced myself. Maybe I was imagining things. Until the day everything changed. It was my 18th birthday. I expected nothing special. No celebration, no surprise. But that morning, my mother walked into my room holding an old envelope. Her hands were shaking. She didn't look at me directly. She said only one thing. "Don't open this in front of me." And then she left. For a long time, I just stared at it. Then I opened it. Inside was a paper, an adoption certificate. But something felt wrong immediately. The document looked fake. And attached to it was a receipt. $3,000. Paid. My heart stopped. I read it again and again. Then another paper fell out. A letter. From a woman in Seoul. It said, "If you're reading this, then they finally gave you the truth I was never allowed to tell you." I couldn't breathe properly, because in that moment, my entire life changed. I walked straight to my parents. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. "What is this?" Silence. My mother started crying instantly. My father didn't even look at me. I asked again, this time louder. And finally, he spoke. "We did what was necessary to survive." Survive? What does that even mean? My mother whispered, "You were never supposed to know." That sentence hit harder than anything else because it confirmed everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I searched everything, old records, hospital files, adoption systems, and slowly, the truth started appearing. It wasn't adoption, it was a transaction. I wasn't given away, I was bought. And my biological mother never agreed to it willingly. She was lied to, manipulated, and I was the result of that lie. I had two choices, stay silent and continue living a lie, or find the woman in Seoul. I chose the second, even if it meant losing everything I had. I booked a flight. No one stopped me, because I think they already knew I wouldn't come back the same. When I arrived in Seoul, my hands were cold. I didn't know what I was going to hear. But when I met her, she didn't ask my name. She just looked at me and started crying. She said, "I never stopped looking for you." That was the moment I broke inside. Because for the first time, someone saw me as something real. I didn't go back the same. I collected everything. Documents, proof, records, and I exposed the truth. And not just for me, but for every lie they built around my life. My adoptive parents lost everything, and my real mother finally got justice. But for me, the biggest truth was this: I was never lost. I was just hidden. And sometimes, finding the truth costs everything you thought you were.